example 1 says to put triangle XYZ in standard position and identify these things. All right, so first off, standard position, what they're considering to be standard position in this book is you put your right angle in the right bottom corner, like so. Basically, as you write it on your paper every time, draw it in this manner. And it doesn't matter, X is the right angle, so that has to be in the bottom right-hand corner here like this. And I'm going to mark it as a right angle. It doesn't really matter where the Y and the Z go, just so long as you have the X in the bottom right corner. I've got the shorter side as XY, the longer side is XZ, so the way I've got it drawn over here, I would put the Y up top and the Z down here at the bottom left. But I want us to consistently be in this idea where the bottom right corner is X, or the right angle is the bottom right corner. The other two acute angles will be the other two angles, one up and one over. All right, when I'm looking at a right triangle, the hypotenuse of the right triangle is the side that's opposite the right angle, as we've said with the Pythagorean theorem. So when I've got it drawn in standard form, the hypotenuse is going to be the slanted side every single time. So a lot of times when they create some standard position of something, that's just so we can say this always happens. So if I always put the right angle in the bottom left-hand corner or bottom right-hand corner, the slanted side is always the hypotenuse. So it's very easy to identify the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse will be side YZ. Going back to geometry ideas, when you're naming the side of a triangle or the side of any polygon, you put the letters that are the endpoints with a bar over top of it. Segment YZ is the side that we're identifying, the hypotenuse. All right, now, when we consider everything else, we're worried about opposite and adjacent to an acute angle. So when I've got the right angle as X, the acute angles are Y and Z. So they've got two questions here related to angle Y. So let me just highlight that real quick. I'm focusing on angle Y, and I want to know the side opposite and the side adjacent to angle Y. I think most people get the idea of opposite better than they get the idea of adjacent. So what I usually do is I identify the opposite first. So if I'm hanging out here at angle Y, and I go across the triangle, so I'm at the acute angle and I go this direction across the triangle, that makes my opposite side to Y. So when it says the side opposite to angle Y, that side would be XZ. And the hypotenuse is the slanted side. So two of the three sides have been identified. The only other side in the picture is going to be the adjacent side. So once we've identified what the hypotenuse and what the opposite is, then the other side must be the adjacent. So the adjacent side would be XY. All right. Then, if I were to consider, instead of opposite angle Y, now I'm looking at opposite angle Z. So now I'm worried about angle Z. I'll take the word opposite and adjacent out of this. Erase that. All right, so if I'm looking at angle Z and the idea of opposite again is considered here, okay, if I'm here at angle Z and I go opposite, that means I'm going this direction, I end up over there. My opposite side would be XY. And the hypotenuse didn't change because it's always the hypotenuse. That means the adjacent side must be XZ. So opposite angle Z is XY. Adjacent angle Z is XZ. As far as trigonometry is concerned, that is a high-level necessary skill that you have to be able to do to identify opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse in a right triangle. Because everything about sine, cosine, and tangent at this moment is going to base itself on the values of those sides. So being able to identify those, creating the standard form, and being able to pick out what's the opposite, what's the adjacent, what's the hypotenuse, which acute angle am I working with. Those types of things are necessary when we're doing right triangle trigonometry at this point. All right. As we continue on in this chapter, we're going to be able to do non-right triangle trigonometry with certain rules. But the basic rule we're going to start off with all has to do with right angle, right triangle. So being able to pick out those three sides in the right triangle based on which acute angle you're working with, that's going to be the key skill that you're going to need for this section.